Hi, I'm Jason, and welcome to a custom commander deck tech. Recently, we here at Stratagames have realized that WotC often makes Sultai legendary creatures that are just built around getting straight value and that really shouldn't be Sultai. After that revelation, I set out to make a commander that was true to its colors in Sultai and one that would be a little bit more interesting to build. Allow me to introduce Kalias, Nature's Conscript. Kalias costs just black, green, blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, Elemental Soldier. She has flash, and each creature you control that entered the battlefield this turn has hexproof and indestructible. That's right, she's a Flash Matters commander. But specifically, she keeps your creatures alive the turn they enter the battlefield, making for great blockers or just allowing you to cast a creature on the end step leading into your turn, so by the time your opponent's removal can target your creatures, you have all your mana back up in order to protect them in other ways. Before I continue, since I made a big show out of Kalias being very in color, I'd like to break down her abilities. Hexproof is primary in blue and secondary in green. Indestructible is secondary in both green and black. As for Flash and its synergies, blue is primary, green is secondary, and for a long time, white had much more flash than black, but in the last few years we've been given 12 black flash creatures, several of which are at common, while white has received only 9, all of which are at least uncommon, and Mario himself has said that flash is now secondary in black. With that settled, let's dive into the deck. And we're starting off with one of my favorite categories of cards. And no, Andrew, it's not mass graveyard recursion spells, it's card draw. Now, Creeping Renaissance and Seasons Past are kind of like burst card draw spells, which are sure to keep your hand stocked with powerful creatures. The rest of our card draw is creature-based. Glademuse, Nimrus, Rashmi, Slitherwisp, and Wavebreak Hippocamp all reward us in different ways for casting spells on other players' turns. While it may seem like overkill to include them all, the best card draw is that which rewards you for doing what you already want to do. Throw a Guardian Project in there, and you should be replacing every card you cast with another card. You'll be like a maniac fuel siphoner, never running out of gas. Now we get to talk about ramping. If this were a Mardu deck, I'd begin diving into a complicated slew of card choices. Do you play Signets or utility 2-mana artifacts? Wafer's Bauble for sure, but what about Sol Ring? Is it worth playing, or should you just concede because you'll inevitably lose anyway? Since we are playing green, however, just put in the standard package. Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Farseek, Rampant Growth, Sakura Tribe Elder, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, 3 Visits, etc. We will generally be able to draw a card for each spell we cast, which means that this deck can make use of a lot of mana. Zendikar Resurgent is another draw engine that provides tons of mana, and Seedborn Muse and Wilderness Reclamation both allow you to take advantage of your flash spells by casting them on your turn and your opponent's. If cheating isn't a moral issue for you, maybe even slot in a Prophet of Kruphix. In this deck, our removal is broken into 4 major categories, the first being generic spot removal. In a deck made primarily to cast spells on your opponent's turns, players tend to get anxious, cautious. They might do something rash like try to counter your spells. Krosan Grip is a good way to remove dangerous permanents like Pyramids or Great Wall. Assassin's Trophy and Beast Within are cheap ways to answer any threat to you, and unsurprisingly, Deadly Rollick is a good fit for this deck. At will, you can flash in your commander and then get a free removal spell. This segues us to our second category of removal, counterspells. I know this is a hot take, but listen up. Fierce Guardianship is a good Magic the Gathering card. And if you can afford to pay $40 for a card that came out less than a year ago, you'll definitely get a lot of use out of it. Frilled Mystic Snake and Sublime Epiphany are counterspells that grant you bodies, making for a great cross between removal and your deck's main strategy. The third form of removal is ETB Fight Creatures. Kalias was designed for flash creatures, but because of her open-endedness, she works effectively with fight creatures, giving them indestructible and hexproof while they maul an opponent's creature. Thorn Mammoth and Kogla the Titan Ape are powerful fight creatures, and Back for More brings them back. For more. The final type of removal is board wipes. There's the boring good ones, Damnation, Cyclonic Rift, and then there's the fun ones. Because of the fight interaction I just mentioned, Apex Altasaur and Azuri's Predation will annihilate the opponent's boards and leave behind one or several creatures for you. Your creatures that enter the battlefield on a given turn are protected, but we don't want your opponents to think that that means your other creatures are vulnerable. Cloudstone Curio, Veilstone Amulet, and Temur Sabertooth allow for repetitive protection to your creatures, while Plax Manta and Ghostly Flicker provide cheap one-shot safety. To provide a bit more synergy to the deck, Cunning Nightbonder and Naiad of Hidden Coves reduce the cost of your spells. Fairy Tauntings drains whenever you cast a spell. Mystical Teachings can tutor for one of your most important pieces. Primeval Bounty gives you 2 creatures for each 1 cast, and Nightpack Ambusher provides an extra body each turn. The last category of spells is an assortment of powerful flash creatures. Some are just big beaters, while others have really strong abilities. Though I'm remiss to say it, Opposition Agent and Hull Breacher are effective tools that both have flash, so they should probably be in this deck. And while we're cutting ties with friends, Notion Thief might as well get in too. Death Touch creatures allow you to block and kill an attacker without losing the blocker, making Icefang Coatl and Direfleet Poisoner cheap but powerful creatures. Portal Mage will keep your opponents on their toes, and Widwin provides a way to repeatedly trigger all of your card draw engines. Illusory Ambusher generally dies after combat, but with Kalias, you can draw cards off of it at least twice, making for a great blocker that'll fill your hand. Getting into our bigger and beefier creatures, Thrix and Dream Eater both provide value while being flying threats, and Lochmere Serpent and Ancient Stone Idol are just really cool cards. Like, look at these guys. And to copy our big boys, we have Cackling Counterpart and Stunt Double. Finally, the mana base, and this is very important. It doesn't matter what lands you play. If you can afford the most expensive lands, then Alpha Duels, Fetches, Shocklands, OP lands, etc. would obviously be the best way to go. If you can only afford Guildgates, Lifelands, and Snow Duels, then that'll work too. It won't be as strong, obviously, but work with what you have. For me, I have this. What I will say is having around 6 utility lands is fairly standard. Some form of graveyard removal is often a benefit, so Bojuka Bog is in here. The deck has lots of removal, so Arcane Lighthouse will ensure that removal can hit their targets. Endless Sands provides another layer of protection to your creatures, and Field of Ruin helps handle powerful lands. This deck functions without its commander, but is significantly better with her. So Commander's Beacon allows you to cheat the commander tax 1 time, and Grimback Woods is an expensive, admittedly, way to draw cards in case you have nothing better to do. I wanted to note that this deck doesn't play Vedalken Orrery or similar cards, because the majority of the spells you cast already have flash, so these cards are just unnecessary. While using one of the lands that give flash wouldn't be too much of a cost to put that card in, the cards that I'd want to flash in are generally really expensive, or cards that I want to have before other cards that have flash, so it just doesn't make much sense to put the land in. Let's face it, WotC is going to keep printing Bant cards as Sultai, and so sometimes we need to make our own commanders. Let us know what cards you'd put in this deck to take advantage of Kalias' abilities, and let us know what kind of custom commander you'd like to see in our next custom commander deck tech. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next custom commander deck tech that we come out with.